Yeah, it was not pretty. It was ugly for some of the offenses out there. But at least for the Denver Broncos, they finally pulled it together in Russell Wilson in that offense.
Pulled it together. They're still a team finding their way here. It's Russell Wilson, game 3. It's a new coaching staff. We know they are not the prettiest on that side of the ball. But, Ahmed, they taught us one thing. You know, hang around, don't make mistakes, give yourself a chance at the end of the game. And that's usually when quarterbacks in the NFL can take over. Russell Wilson on the last drive looked like the Russell Wilson we've been accustomed to in Seattle. Few plays with his legs, big-time one-on-one throw out here to Courtland Sutton, leads to the touchdown by Melvin Gordon. But that was encouraging. We haven't seen a lot of that over the last 2 weeks. But the big thing was they didn't shoot themselves in the foot like the 49ers did, and I think you got to give Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett credit for that. 12-play, 80-yard drive. I wonder why we didn't see that, Russ, up until that drive late in the game. I think that's a big question. Certainly, I think that's something like we haven't, you and I have been wondering, where is that aspect of this football game? We know he's Russell Wilson. That's who he is, the ability to make magic off schedule. I'd like to see him move in the pocket more, move outside the pocket, right? Move the coverage, make those plays. But I think it's also a comfort thing. And then I also think Denver's in the process of trying to figure out what plays make sense for Russell Wilson and kind of building that catalog for that as well. They got a really good defense, and the good thing is he's played in Seattle that had good defenses, and he knows if I don't make a turnover and we can just hang around, I can work some Russell Wilson fourth quarter magic, and he did that tonight. Give him some credit because it was a grind, but they never really made that huge mistake. No turnovers in the game for the Denver Broncos here. There were 3 that they forced from the San Francisco 49ers. A couple of fumbles, an interception out there. That Denver defense was forcing the issue for San Francisco most of this game. Denver's defense is very good. We know they have 2 pretty good pass rushers with Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory from Dallas in free agency. But the 49ers, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo, we all, hey, it's going to be the Jimmy Garoppolo bump. No, what happened is we got reminded of why the 49ers drafted Trey Lance as the 3rd pick. Is it just inconsistent from Jimmy Garoppolo at times? And I think that's something that frustrated you as we watched the game. Even on some of the completions he had to Deebo Samuel, you go, well, if that was a better thrown ball, that would have been a lot more yards down the field. Might have set them up for some points. But it was inaccurate throws and, of course, some bad decision-making and the safety, not knowing where you are in the back of the end zone. Very rare to see a player that's played that much have that little awareness in that situation. So he's got some kinks to work out of his game as well. Didn't practice a whole lot in the offseason, right? Wasn't around the team. You wonder how much that. They didn't even give him a playbook. I mean, he was not supposed to be on the team, so you do have to remember that he's kind of getting the swing of getting back playing quarterback here, too, right now. So Cris likes to see games with offenses as a former quarterback. I know one guy who's at the stadium right now that probably didn't mind a little defensive struggle out there. Rodney Harrison with my guy, Jack Collinsworth. Hello, you two.
Hey, they're not booing anymore. I can tell you that. They're not booing. That was about as loud of a crowd as I've heard on that final drive trying to put it away. Russell Wilson started to look like himself when he's running around, scrambling in that fourth quarter. He's looking like himself again. That's how he took it over.
Absolutely, and I got to give the offensive line a lot of credit. That is an excellent defensive front. They did a good job of rotating those guys up front, but that offensive line really held it down, protected Russell Wilson, and when it was time to run the football and get those tough, hard yards, they were able to do it. And you saw Russell Wilson, man, it just seems like he just lit up. He stopped trying to be so perfect. He stopped trying to appease everyone and live up to the expectations. And he said, forget it. Let's just go out there and play football, and that's exactly what he did, Jack.
Flip me over to Jimmy Garoppolo, though, in this 49ers offense, because you continuously see those moments where Shanahan's just shaking his head sideways on the sideline, and those are the moments where he wanted to replace him and go draft a guy like Trey Lance. Garoppolo tonight, what'd you see?
Well, Jimmy G, when he's doing a quick passing game, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, he's very comfortable. But once he has to start holding the ball and he has to survey down the field, it seems to get me really nervous. And when you're talking about Kyle Shanahan, this is the reason why he wanted to get rid of Jimmy G, because he felt like Jimmy G could not get him over the hump and make those type of plays. I thought he played average tonight.
Yeah, maybe below average. Sims, what'd you see from Garoppolo this evening?
Well, I think you guys hit on it. It was below average. We saw that first touchdown drive of the night. We got all excited about, okay, the 49ers, they're rolling. But we forgot that Jimmy G is careless with the football. He is inaccurate with the football. Trey Lance made us forget that. But here's a game plan play specifically for this coverage. Deebo Samuel up the right sideline. Why are we not throwing him the ball? Here's another game plan play. Faking the running back choice route. Like he's going to go inside, up the sideline. Yes, completion, but he had to sit there like it was a punt to catch the football. Should have been catching it on the run and would have outrun down Josie Jewell for a touchdown. Fumbled snap. Of course, the play in the back of the end zone there. This is just inexplicable, really, for a guy that's played as much as Jimmy Garoppolo. And we're not even showing the fact that he threw a pick six and didn't even realize that he was out of bounds on top of that. But inaccurate throws like that, again, Deebo Samuel wide open in NFL world over the middle, not seeing a free safety on the other side of the formation there, and just throwing it blindly to Deebo Samuel over the middle. You know, Rodney, you said it right. I think we're all trying to say the same thing. Yes, we expected the offense to be better as compared to Trey Lance, but we also got reminded of there's some issues with Jimmy Garoppolo, and Shanahan has to manage the game in such a perfect way and deliver so many what I call silver platter completions. Like, look, here's Deebo Samuel wide open for 10 yards. Way to go. And it's just hard to live like that all the time, let alone against a well-coached defense in Denver. E.J. Evero coming from the Rams. He knows some of those tricks of the Shanahan offense. He took that away. But Jimmy G's going to have to play better, certainly, because they just can't expect their run game to always take over. Right, Rodney?
Cris, I got to ask you this, man, because the one thing I'm watching, and you do a great job of really analyzing the quarterback position and their feet. Jimmy G, his feet are all over the place. And I know he's a good athlete, but he never really has that solid foundation to step up in there, standing there. His feet are facing one way, his shoulders are another way. I mean, you can speak to that more so than I can.
No, but Rodney, you're right. You've seen enough quarterbacks throw. You were up there with number 12 in New England forever. You know what a good throw and what good body positioning looks like. There's a lot of these type of throws. Even though he's out of bounds here, why are his feet at 3 and 9 o'clock to throw the ball down the field, right? It's always jumpy. It's always a little over the place. Like you're saying, there's never an assertive step into the throw and let me really uncork a laser down the middle of the football field. To your point, Rodney, I think you're spot on. And I think because of that, that's why Shanahan's always trying to deliver these over-the-middle throws, because he doesn't know if Jimmy G can consistently throw the ball outside the numbers or down the field. And yes, that is why they drafted Trey Lance, because they are missing that part of their offense.
That is the reason right there.
Yeah. I want to ask about some of these special teams moments. Through about 3.5 quarters, the most memorable moments of the game were on punt coverage, just covering punts. I know you made a point your whole career about doing it. Set up the safety. We just saw Orlovsky Jr. right there, Garoppolo stepping on the back line.
Hey, man, I played 15 years in the National Football League, and every year, not only did I want to play, I volunteered to play special teams, because we always talk offense, we always talk defense, but we don't really understand the importance of special teams and field position, and that's exactly what we saw here. Guys sacrificing, making plays not only inside the 20-yard line, but inside the 5-yard line, which really changes the course of the game. And you can look at some of these plays. I mean, these guys make a really good living going down here making some of these plays. I mean, this is a great punt. Great job. Now look at this. This is a very athletic play. This is something that he's worked on in practice probably 150 times.
Yeah, it's like saving the ball in basketball.
Absolutely. Yeah. But once again, it comes down to field positioning. You see the Broncos time and time again making the key plays, and it's just amazing to see. Makes me proud as an old special team guy.
It's how it happened. And I gotta tell you, too, Trent Williams, you think about some of the injuries. Deebo Samuel as well, who was banged up in this game. I remember your tape in the pregame talking about Kittle and those two. And those are the toughest guys on this offense. As soon as you saw 2 of the 3 leave the game, it's a different-looking group for the San Francisco 49ers.
Absolutely. And they've been used to losing George Kittle. He's been in and out with injuries. But Trent Williams, he's the guy that really sets the tone for that offense. He's the big guy. He's so athletic. He's so mean when he's out there. I mean, he's just the best left tackle in all of football, and I just hate to see him come down with an injury like this. This is devastating to him. This is the type of injury that could either keep them out of the playoffs or definitely keep them advancing far in the playoffs, Cris.
Agreed. I mean, Trent Williams is you said it, he's a Hall of Fame first ballot left tackle, in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
And they ask a lot of him, not only in the run game, but all the wide receiver screens they throw out on the edge, right to Deebo Samuel. A lot of the times that's Trent Williams got to get out there and make that first block. So he's the tone setter, to your point. He's the leader of that offense. And, yeah, that was a big blow to their football team. And especially when the 49ers, and we know tonight, they couldn't rely on the pass game, where they might have wanted to run to the left side a little bit in the run game behind Trent Williams in some of these big situations. And we saw Jimmy G get some pressure off that left side towards the end of the football game as well.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.